Come on, people. Wake up.
Not Duchesne.
Yeah.
He just got back to the level that he's accustomed to playing at this.
Yeah.
Is that really the story?
I think so. You know, listen, he's played at a high level for a long time in this league. And like every player, he's had some down years. You know, he's not the first player, especially a guy who gets measured by his offensive numbers, you know, to have some dips over his career at different points. I mean, you know, we've got guys in our dressing room like that too. So, you know, I think it was just a circumstance. He had an off year. Their team had an off year. They wanted to make some changes. He became available. I don't think there was any doubt in Jim or I's mind, you know, what he was capable of. And he's coming, you know, he's delivered, you know, at that level. And he doesn't look like he's slowing down to me.
When Sagan's healthy, like how do the three parts of that line complement each other? And
well, listen, you know what, the analytics, I mean, they've got a long stretch of being not just the best line in our team, one of the best lines or the best line in the league for stretches over the last 2 years when they're healthy. So, you know, Seggy's got to get up to speed. It's game one. He missed 56. He hadn't played since December. I thought he did a great job coming in, you know, getting up to speed. But, you know, there's going to be some runway there. But when they're all going, they get a nice complement to each other. Marchment does a great job of disrupting and forechecking and winning pucks back. You know, Dutchie's the transporter. He can carry the puck 200 feet from goal line to goal line. You know, and Seggy's turned into one of those guys that, you know, is really, really good defensively. He's kind of the defensive conscience of that group for me. You know, but also has that ability to find holes and find pucks in the offensive zone.
Hey, can you say in the analytics of that line, what are the numbers that you find value in versus don't find value in when breaking something down like that?
Yeah, you know what? It's a good question. You'd have to ask our analytics group. They do all that heavy lifting for me and get it down to. So bother those guys. Yeah, I mean, I rely on those guys to give me the Coles notes for the people that are old enough in this room to know what Coles notes are of it. So I'm not sure exactly, but you know, we talk about the importance, and that's the thing with analytics. I'm going to go off on a tangent here now. It's critical that you get the right things put into that pot, you know, in order to get, you know, valuable information out. So, you know, that's the importance of that.
And when it comes to the value and getting things out of it, how much do you actually communicate that with the players of this actually means something, or does that also fall on that staff there?
No, it means something. I mean, you know, I'll give you an example. We had we have a game impact number for our entire roster after a game. You know, and some guys are lower on that list than how I or they feel they played, you know, and some of it's matchup based. If you're playing against McKinnon every shift, you know, your game impact isn't in the things that they're talking about. It's offensively skewed. It's things like that. It isn't going to be good. So you've got to be careful with some of that stuff.
I'm going to dig on that a little more. Is it like a score from like 1 to 10, or like what does a game impact score look like?
Yeah, it's a number, and it's, you know, everyone that plays in the game, and there's a bunch of things that go into that, but it is offensively slanted. You know, puck touches, puck battles, chances for, chances against. There's a whole bunch of things that go into that. You know, and again, you know, if you're matched up against a guy like McKinnon all night, you know, your number's not going to be probably reflective of how effective you were.
Speaking of McKinnon, I mean, you have obviously three centers that you could probably put any of them out against him, but did you feel particularly comfortable, especially with a player like Rope going up against his line?
You know what, that wasn't a hard match for us. If that's what ended up happening, that's what ended up happening. You know, I feel like when you're playing a player like that, you've got to build out at least 3 and probably 4 lines that can play against him. He's on the ice, for heavy minutes in all situations. We're going on the road, obviously, into Denver where they control those matchups. So, I don't think you can be married to 1 or even 2 matchups against him. I think your whole group has to be prepared to play against him.
Do you feel the same way with defense pairs, or is it a little bit different with defense?
Yeah, no, I think, well, listen, everyone has matchups. I'm more of a defense matchup guy than a forward matchup guy, but, same thing, you're not going to be able to get one pair out against him, especially when you're going on the road.
Every day we're asking Mikko the same questions, and he's answering them, gracefully, and he seems like he's in a good mindset.
Yeah.
How are you seeing how he's handling, just the scrutiny on him, going up against his whole team, everything that he's gone through?
You know what, I've just been really impressed with his professionalism and his composure is probably the best word for it. He's got a lot on his plate. I don't think anyone should be surprised that, this hasn't come easily and all at once. I think the track record of guys in similar situations to this, tells everyone in this room, including our coaching staff, that this isn't going to be easy. So, I think he's actually probably ahead of schedule on where I think, my projections were, where he might have been or could have been. At best case projections, there's no, it's seamless. I don't think that's realistic, but, I think he's ahead of where I think potentially he could have been, and where some other guys in the similar situation, the level they played at and how long it took them. So I've been really happy with him, and I think he's going to get better and better. I don't think what you're seeing is an act. I think he feels comfortable. I think he feels like it's really close, and he's just got to stick with it.
At the same time, you need him obviously to be as good as he can be. How do you walk that line of pushing him but not pushing him too hard?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we need him, but he's not going to win this series for us single-handedly. He's got to play a part, but we've got a big group around him, and, until he gets, to a point where he's making a nightly impact, other guys have to do some heavy lifting.
Do you need any lineup changes tonight?
We're probably going to have a couple, but that'll be game time.
What would you say Miro's out today? Obviously we saw him.
Miro's out, yeah.
Coach, with Mikko, when he first got here, how much more comfortable, I understand it's a process and all that. It feels like it was real shocking for him, the initial trade and then the uncertainty. How much more comfortable is he now versus when he first got here in Carolina?
I think every day he gets more comfortable. I think off ice he's settled from what I understand, with his housing and things like that. He's gotten to know the group, so that's always a big part of it. On the ice, I think there's still a transition. He played in one place for almost a decade, and he played with one guy for almost a decade, and that guy, no one else in the league has that guy, that plays that exact game. So you've been working off, a certain partner like that for a decade, and your game working off that, it's not an easy transition.
What is his complete?
Really,
Sorry, go ahead.
Chris Hanif was really effective in shutting down Colorado Stars last year.
Yeah.
What can you replicate from what brought him success with the personnel you have?
Yeah. Well, you don't replicate Chris Tanev. I think that's the beauty of Chris Tanev. He was. Listen, when we played Colorado last year at this time of year, we had Miro Heiskanen and Chris Tanev, two, in my mind, probably the top 5 defensive defensemen maybe in the league, in our lineup. So, that's a different world than we're in today with what we have. So, we've got to do it by committee. We got to do it. Our forwards have to play a bigger part in that. Our goaltender has to play a big part in that. We don't have the same group we had last year.
Obviously this time of year with lineups and everything like that, there's a lot of things we don't know publicly that you and Jared are. How much though, when you say I'm making game time decisions, or Jared says I'm doing this, does it actually impact your day, what Jared says? Or vice versa, like as a coach, like we always hear, like intentionally you don't share it with us and that's fine, but I'm just curious of how much does it actually change your prep when you say, hey, we're gonna name our lineup at 6 o'clock?
I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna have a pregame meal, I'm gonna have a nap. I'm not thinking about Jared Bednar or what he says today, and I assume he's not thinking about me. I hope he's not.
Anything else?
Thanks.
All right, thanks.
I guess just for starters, for you, that first game didn't go your guys' way, but Pete DeBoer said that was your guys' best game in a few weeks. Just where are you guys at in this room?
Yeah, I think it's just one game, and I think there were some good things, especially defensively. I think we defended pretty well. Obviously they earned a couple of bounces in the first 2 goals, and that's how it goes sometimes, But I think defensively we gotta keep doing what we did, try to break out well and stay inside all the time. I think offensively we can do a little bit more, try to get more inside and put some pressure on their D. They're obviously a very mobile D, so try to stay on top of them a little bit more.
Some shots they were shown on the broadcast of you and Kale mixing it up, you and G. Was it fun to be going through that intensity?
Yeah, for sure. It's different now, for sure. But good friends off the ice. But I think now for next, however it takes this series, we're obviously enemies, so we compete hard, and everybody in that team competes hard, and we try to do the same, and we will. So it's fun. It's fun to compete in these games when every little detail matters.
Has it been easier or harder than you thought to go up against them? Has it mattered once the puck drops?
Well, yeah, it's obviously, it was a second game against their old team, and but yeah, I think it's getting easier and easier. I think the first one is now out of the way, and I just gotta focus on try to play well individually, help the team offensively and defensively. Try to play responsible and. But it's competing against those guys. They're hard competitors. All the guys I know from there, so I'll try to do the same.
Have you been keeping up with Gabe's progress and playing in the AHL?
Yeah. I was happy to see him play there. I watched his first game. He looked good out there. So I talked with him after the game, and I was really happy for him. Obviously, it's been a grind for him, and he's a good friend of mine. So I was happy to see him back on the ice.
Is it a tough thing where you're like, I would love to see him come back? Maybe not against us, though.
Yeah, he's a really good player. So when he comes back, we gotta be ready for him, and obviously adjust our game, because he's even though he missed a lot of time, he's still a veteran guy with a lot of experience. So whenever he plays, we gotta be ready.
Can you imagine the difficulty of the journey he's been on? How does that strike you? I mean, that's a long time to try to get back.
Yeah, it is, and that's why I was so happy to see him back on the ice and play in a competitive game. And he's done so much work last 3 years, almost 3 years, to come back, and it's been ups and downs and disappointments and excitement, and then back to disappointment. And so to see him now do well and be back on the ice, I'm happy for him.
There was so much uncertainty when you were in Raleigh, right? Donations, there were a lot of pressure and everything. Has it been easier to settle here? When you signed the contract here, feel more settled?
Yeah, I think so. I think the contract is over, the talk, and this is going to be the home for a long time now, and I think that made it easier to adjust, and like I said, the trade to Carolina was the surprise. So then you kind of adjusting, and 4 Nations. I didn't spend a lot of time there, but yeah, I think the contract helped with that.
When did you feel like you were back in control of your hockey life? And maybe that's the wrong way for me to put it, but you certainly rode the wave of emotions for a while. And when were you able to say, all right, I know what's going on now, I know what my future is going to be, that kind of stuff?
Well, I think it was when I came here, when you have a long contract, and that's when you kind of can settle in. You don't have to think about anymore where you're gonna be and what's gonna happen, and So I think the day I got here, there was more settlement mentally for sure. It was easier for sure.
How difficult was that lack of settlement, or was it?
Which one, sorry?
How difficult was the lack of settlement or the uncertainty? Was that?
Yeah, I think it's not easy in anybody's life if there's uncertainty. Even if you're a hockey player or football player or plumber or rider, if there's uncertainty, I think it's always hard mentally. So I think it goes hand in hand to everybody's life.
How eager are you to move on from this whole kind of story of this season and just become a regular Dallas?
Yeah, I think it's kind of time. It takes time, and now it's still the same season that I've been moved a couple times, and I understand the talk around it. But I think after time, there's gonna be new news and new stuff to talk about. So I think the time is the key in that one.
You had time to shop for a house and all that, figure out where you're gonna live and all that?
Yeah, it's a little bit harder when the games are going so every other day almost in playoffs. So I found a place to stay for the rest of the season, and then try to figure out maybe this summer or before next season what to do next year.
So as you were asked already, Matthew Shane talked about how he's someone that has often. Have you talked to him at all about this experience and playing Colorado and all that?
Not really, no. A little bit maybe. The first game we were in Colorado, maybe, but he told me something. But I think it's everybody's a little different how they handle things, and but he's been. It's good to know he's there if I need ever anything, But I obviously have family, friends to lean on to, but yeah, it's good to have him in the same team.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You guys have been through this before, obviously, with coming off a loss in Game 1. Is there a different dynamic? Do you learn anything? Do we bring it up too much? Is it just another game?
We've been pretty consistent with these Game 1 losses. It doesn't faze us. Obviously, we want to win that first one, but it doesn't always happen. All our focus is on Game 2 here and getting a big win.
How did you assess Game 1? Seems like a lot better than what you guys have done in the regular season, and other than the fluky goal, and then fluky goals happen.
Yeah, you're going to get your bounces go your way and against you, and nothing you can do about it. We're just going to keep moving on here and watch some video. We learned some things. We're going to try and bring into Game 2 here.
What have you seen from Mikko playing on your line in the last few games?
He hangs on to pucks really well. Smart player, creates a lot. He attracts a lot of attention out there, and all good players do. And, it's been a lot of fun to play with them, and we're just going to try and keep building this chemistry here and try and find ways to create some more.
He's in such a difficult position going up against his old team so quickly. How do you sense he's handling that?
Like a true professional. I think he mentioned it before, but it was probably good to get one out of the way in the regular season. To get away from the media and all that stuff. So he's handling it well, and his focus is all on this team now, obviously, and win hockey games.
Things like that, and everyone externally is freaking out about an 8-game losing streak. Where does the calm come from? Where do you guys find that ability to just ride what is it about the pro athlete mentality that allows?
It comes from within this group. Everyone in this dressing room. We're an experienced group. We've been through a lot together. You're going to go through ups and downs in a season, and it's just hockey. That's part of playing 82 games. And, we're not sweating it. We take it one game at a time, and we got a new day here to make something great happen and try and tie the series up.
What have you learned